And good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Chalk Talk. I am your host, Kim Davis. Today is Tuesday, February the 28th. It is the last day of February. So if you had something that you wanted to get done in February, you've got a few more hours, right? You do. You got about 13 hours to get it done. Tomorrow is March 1st. March 1st, the beginning of Women's History Month. Of course, I think every month is Black History Month. And so don't be deterred by the fact that it is on the calendar is Black History Month. Just know that every day is a great time for Black history. All right, welcome to the show this week. So much to talk about. Thank you for being here. As always, I want to start with the people who help us do this work each and every week, and those are our sponsors. This show is sponsored by, the title sponsor of the show is the World Youth Foundation. You've been hearing me talk about this collaboration with the World Youth Foundation and the African American Male Wellness Agency. The upcoming walk in Houston is April the 15th. I have posted in the comments the information. A link to the walk is at the top of the comments. And so make sure that you go to that link so that you can register if you're interested in having a passion team to be a part of the walk. If you want to be a volunteer, all the information is at that website. And so go there and get the information that you need so that you can participate, support the effort, get somebody else to participate. It's going to be fun. This work is super important, super necessary. So the World Youth Foundation, who does a lot of work, a lot of collaborations. This is just one with the African American Male Wellness Agency. It's the first year for the walk in Houston, but this walk has been going on for 15 years, 19 years. It started in Columbus, Ohio. Houston is kicking off the walk season this year as they look to spread this great and necessary work around the country. So kudos to the African American Male Wellness Agency, and more importantly, the World Youth Foundation, our partner. Okay, so listen, you've heard me talk about I Love Jinka. Some of you I saw last week at a vending opportunity. They were out at the HEB store on McGregor. And so if you're interested in learning more about Jinka, ilovejinka.com is the website. You can order it online. You don't have to be in Houston to get all of this goodness. But if you are in Houston, you can hop over to an HEB and pick up your Jinka. You can get the paste. Or if you're like, I don't really have time for that, I'm traveling, I don't want to make a drink, even though the drinks are really yummy, get the capsules, right? It's all good. You get the same work. It's getting this great product in your body. But if you go into an HEB, here's where you can find it.
Here at HEB, in the Healthy Living Department, the probiotics, you can find Jinka 7 days a week.
Yeah. Look at that Jinka sale. Look at that Jinka.
Go get your Jinka at HEB or go to ilovejinka.com. Okay, listen. For those of you in the Houston area, Kimmy Treats is back restocked at Sunshine's on OST. The body butter's there. I am going to restock the body butter later today. There is still some there, but I'm going to replenish and take some more over. If you're not in Houston, or if you don't want to drive to this side of town, you can go online to kimmytreats.com and place an order. We do ship. But if you go into the store or if you go online, this is what you can expect. So there's the Kimmy butter, that's the body butter. There's the Kimmy corn, that's the popcorn. And I'm also going to be bringing back the Kimmy bars to Sunshine. So if you've been asking me about it, I hear you. I'm going to take some Kimmy bars, if not later today, first thing tomorrow morning. So make sure you check out Sunshine's, or you can go online to kimmytreats.com. And this is what you can expect: vegan popcorn and hand-whipped body butter. All right, welcome back. Okay, so listen, The NFL scouting combine is taking place this week in Indianapolis. I can't tell you what Texans general manager Nick Caserio said because he's talking right now. So I'll have to get it later and see what he's talking about. But I will be posting some of it, talking about it on my platforms later today and the rest of the week. Head coach DeMeco Ryans is going to meet the media tomorrow. They are in Indianapolis to take a look at some of the prospects coming out, see the workouts. Bryce Young, of course, is the name that most people in Houston are talking about, right? Are the Texans going to try to do a deal, move up to get the number 1 pick to trade for Bryce Young? I don't know what they're planning to do. And then there's some who say, well, it's Bryce Young. Can he play in the league? His size is a little small. We don't know. Last week, Coach Mike Haywood joined us, and he talked about the fact that Bryce Young is the real deal. But the key is that he gets in the right system with the right coach and the right pieces around him. That's true for any quarterback. So we're going to talk about that later in the program. It is also spring training time, right? The Astros are in full swing. They've started playing games. I'm going to let you hear from Dusty Baker today. And there was a game on Sunday where the Houston Rockets lost to Portland, to the Trailblazers in Portland. And the thing that stood out for most people, the final was 131-114. Of course, the Rockets have not been a great defensive team. That's a lot of points. But 71 of those points were scored by one player. We're going to let you hear from head coach Stephen Silas when he met with the media after the game. But we're going to start with baseball. We're just going to start with baseball. So there's a few things happening. Some of the new rules have gone into effect. Baseball, Major League Baseball is trying to figure out how can we shorten the games, right? The games are long. Average games were over 3 hours last year, and sometimes they were much longer. What can we do to shorten the games? The baseball purists are up in arms, but the goal for Major League Baseball is to get more people to watch their games, attend their games, stay for their games. And so they were looking for ways to speed it up and to not take away from the integrity of the game. And so one of those things is with the pitch count. And Dusty Baker talked about that. He was asked about the pitch count. Here's Dusty at camp talking his thoughts about how this whole pitch count thing is going to work from spring training in West Palm Beach.
Oh, yeah, they're paying attention. But, guys have been creatures of habits for such a long time. You just don't all of a sudden just change those habits. And, we've had a couple of real close calls. And we've had a couple of pitchers take a little too long, or you lose consciousness of it, and especially in batting practice. You're not as aware in batting practice who's going to be in the game, but we'll see. I know that's the talk of the town, and people want to know what you're going to do, but we really don't know. Some of the minor league guys have already experienced that, so they have a better idea than our big league guys do.
Dusty said, listen, I know it's the talk of the town, but we don't know yet. We got to wait and see. Houston fans, if you've been watching spring training, you saw Kyle Tucker. The last time he played, he was a little, he seemed a little frustrated by it because it speeds up what happens when you come to the plate. They're trying to speed up the pitch count. So that's that. Dusty was also asked about how the new rules, this new pitch count rule, will it have an impact on players stealing bases? Here's what Dusty had to say.
Do you think that these new rules are going to facilitate more base stealing league-wide and more running, or do you not really have a feel for that yet?
We'll see. First, you got to have some runners.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Get on base.
But it does help that they can't throw over but twice. But if they take off too quick and get picked off, now they're out. I love speed. That's the thing that's missing in this game the most is speed. This is why they facilitated some of these rules to create speed, but it's hard to create speed, but you're helping out by these rule changes.
So that's Dusty Baker talking about the pitch count, whether it's going to have an impact on base stealing. He talks about speed, and that's one of the things he really likes about the game that he thinks is missing is the speed speed in the game. He was also asked about catching, right? Like if it's difficult to strike a balance between power at the plate or defense. And here is Dusty again trying to help people understand his thoughts about the catching position. Here's Dusty Baker from spring training.
Number one job of catcher is to catch, and call a game and hopefully throw some guys out, stop their running game. Defense is number one at the catching position. I mean, hitting is a bonus big time. But, there aren't many guys around like Pudge Rodriguez or Johnny Bench. I mean, the better they call a game and the more they're in charge, the guy, whoever's catching is my on the field general. I mean, he's second in command behind me. So, number one, you got to catch.
The number one responsibility, the job of the catcher is to catch, right? It is that whole he's a great hitter is a bonus. And so that is his position. There are people who question it. They don't like it. He says they're the general on the field behind him. So that gives you a sense, if you didn't already have it, of how he looks at the catcher's position, right? And so that's Dusty Baker from spring training. Opening day, regular season opening day is March the 30th. The Astros will open the season at Minute Maid Park. They'll play host to the Chicago White Sox. Yes, we will be in the building. I can't believe it's baseball season already. I'm super excited about it. And so the journey begins. Okay, let's switch over real quick and talk a little bit about basketball. The Houston Rockets have been struggling, right? Not a great team. And they had an outing the other day. Wait, let me just see one thing. I just want to check and see. So the Houston Rockets at 13-47, 13 wins and 47 losses. They are 1-10 over the last 10 games. But don't feel so bad because the San Antonio Spurs at 14-47 are 0-10 over the last 10 games, right? Currently, the Houston Rockets have the absolute worst record in the NBA. And for those of you who are rooting, saying, that's great, Kim, it gives a better shot at Victor, because you heard the team's owner at Mardi Gras saying, hey, pray for Victor. The way the lottery system works in the NBA, just because you have the worst record doesn't mean that you get the number one pick, right? The Rockets have been there. They haven't gotten the number one pick in the last 2 years. They had the second pick and the third pick, right, over the last couple of years. Will they get the number one pick? Because Victor will be the number one player. Who knows? But on Sunday, they were in Portland, and they played the Trailblazers. And the Trailblazers covered. The line was 9.5 points. They covered by a lot. They covered by 17 points. But the big story from that game is that Dame Lilliard finished with 71 points in 39 minutes. He was 22 of 38 from the field. He connected on 13 of 22 three-point baskets. He had 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 turnovers. But he had 71 points, y'all. Here is Coach Silas. I'm going to let you hear Coach Silas talking about, oh my goodness. As I do this to, I had to have some work done on my computer recently, and each day I'm finding out things, okay, I'll do that later, that I have to reset, right? In terms of being able to, let's go here. Being able to Hold on a second. I'm coming. I'm going to let you hear from him. I am so annoyed because something just changed again. So that I can let you see this screen. Okay.
Disappointed.
After you guys came and cut it within 5, and then Dame scores like 20 points in that last little stretch there. What happened?
He was out of the game. We went to the zone. We did a good job in the zone. Bobby was in. He did a good job in the zone. And then they brought Dame back, and we were trapping him and doing all sorts of stuff to get the ball out of his hands, blitzing him in the pick and rolls. But, we just struggled to guard him.
How did you feel about the defensive effort tonight?
We gave effort. It's not like we didn't give effort. He made some really tough shots. But we need everybody to give effort on the defensive end.
Is that why Alfie didn't play for the last quarter or so? Were you concerned with, how he would do defensively?
Yeah, I mean, they went at him with every pick and roll, every single one. You can't. Yes.
What did you see from Tar and some of your bench guys who came in and contributed to that?
They gave some good effort when we were switching and, flying around, whether we were in the man or the zone. They did a good job. Got the ball up the floor quickly. I thought Dacian did a good job with his ball pressure and all that. Obviously, Dame was hot, shooting for half court. And every time we weren't right all the way up into him, he was making them. But, we gave an all right effort, most everybody.
Were there adjustments that you wanted?
All right, so that's Stephen Silas, clearly frustrated by what he saw on Sunday night in Portland, understandably, right? You gave up 71 points to one player. It's just, what do you say about that? So they're back in action tonight. The Houston Rockets are back in action. They're playing at home. They will play host to the Denver Nuggets. And I'm looking right now because I'm watching Nick Caserio is live from the NFL Combine. And I'm just trying to see if there's anything that I've missed. There are 58 days until the NFL draft. And the real work is underway, right? Who are they going to do before they get there? Before we start talking Houston Texans, let's go back to these Houston Rockets for just a moment. Here's their schedule. Let me just tell you what they got going on. So they play tonight. They have a busy month of in March, right? Although this is the last day of February. They play Denver tonight in the Toyota Center. They play Memphis tomorrow night, also in the Toyota Center. So there's a back-to-back. Couple of days off, then they go to San Antonio. They have a back-to-back against San Antonio. On the road in San Antonio on Saturday. Back home to play San Antonio on Sunday. And then they play Brooklyn next week and Chicago. So listen, it's a busy month. They get a lot, what do they want to see over these next 20 games or so, right? What do they want to see? Get some wins. They want to see something that they want to see much better action than they saw on Sunday night. They don't want to see that. And you heard the question about Alpi and his defense. That's been one of the criticisms about Sengun, is that he's defensively a liability. He has an absolutely amazing fan club, right? They just think that Silas has something against Alpi. He's, he doesn't like him. He's not good at his job because he doesn't play him more. But it is fair to talk about him being a liability defensively. But that on Sunday night was just awful. We'll see what they do tonight when they play Denver. Denver, the Nuggets, of course, are one of the best teams in the league. when we go back and look at if the playoffs were to start today, right? Denver is 43-19. They are in the top spot in the West. They're 7-3 over their last 10. And they're one of the favorites to come out of the West. You know, we know that Phoenix made a big deal. They got Kevin Durant before the trade deadline. And you saw, and there's also conversation about the Lakers, that the Lakers could pull up and do something. They're in the 12th spot right now. But there's a lot of, from 12 to 6, it's about 3 or 4 games. So in terms of positioning. So anything could happen down this stretch. Tony says coaching staff must hate Şengün. He never plays the fourth quarter, but he either is in foul trouble or he just doesn't. I mean, he's defensively a liability. I think that's fair. I don't think they hate him. Corey Lee lands a backup catcher since he's a better defender, I guess. We'll see, but he could, you know. Defense, you know, like Dusty says, defense is really, that's what you want your catcher to do, right? Keep you from stealing bases. Call a good game. Be really the general on the field in terms of calling what happens. And if that's the key for the way he runs this team, then that's how he looks at the catcher position. And I'm good with it. Hey, Joe McGinty, welcome. Hopeless and helpless Rockets. Yeah, they are, you know, not a lot of fun to watch. You know, we thought early on they weren't going to be great, but these young guys would be, you know, they're talented. It'd be fun to watch. And early on, there were some moments. But listen, for everybody who thinks you lose and you tank and you build your squad, losing is not the answer for building a winning culture. And when you have so many young players and they're losing so much, it is difficult to keep them together from a staying upbeat. I mean, I can look at some of the guys' body language sometime. Guys who before, you know, and it's not that they quit. They want to be successful. They want to work, but they've lost so much, right? Let me go back. They've won 13 games and they've lost 47. There are 22 games left, right? If they won every game, which they will not, the best they could do was a 35-win season in 47. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So it's difficult, all this losing and carrying on for those who might think it's just a thing and let's go get Victor. You could have the worst record in the league and you could still not get the number 1 spot. So the whole team is Tony, you're right. The whole team is defensively, they're just not good. And the thought was that they'd be better. You know, Jabari Smith, who's a rookie, you can't put it all on his shoulders. And Atari Easton, those guys like defense. But this is a reminder that playing at this level is very different from playing at this level, you know, in college, from playing on a collegiate team, even being the best of the best of the best. The NBA is still different. The season's longer. There are a lot more games. The games speed up. There's a number of things that happen that make it a transition, which is why, and I understand a lot of the times it's just like, oh, these guys are one and done in college, or they go to the G League and come in. It still takes them a while. I always say that. It takes them those years they would have spent in college to grow into a real NBA player for the most part. LeBron James was an exception, but even Kobe Bryant, as great as he was, it took him a few years. He came straight out of high school to the league. It took him 3 or 4 years before he became the Black Mamba, if you will, before he became the player that we remember him being, right? So I don't know how you ever get that genie back in the bottle, but the other development that these players were getting years before, they miss it, and it takes a minute. And so that's why you have so much youth and an experience. Defense is a place that you really see the struggles. And so, just hope that this team gets through the rest of the season with no major injuries, that Rafael Stone has a real plan for the future. They cannot continue to be this bad. They just can't. I mean, you got plenty of draft picks. Go out and draft some players. You got cap room. Go out and get you a veteran. It should not be James Harden, I don't think. But there's still this conversation about what he could mean to the team. And I think that'd be a huge mistake. But that's just what I think. So listen, I love your input. I love your thoughts. But you're right, Tony. This whole team is a liability defensively. And it's tough to watch. But I'll be there tonight. They play the Nuggets. The Nuggets are pretty good, right? And, we'll just see what we see. And again, tomorrow night they play Memphis. I may have a meeting, so I'll be late. But I will be in the house. Tony says they're going to max out a 34-year-old James. That would be insane. James Harden today is not the James Harden he was, I'm going to say, when he was in his prime. He's not that player anymore. And even that player, with the pieces around them, wasn't what you needed to get to the next level. At that point, the next level was to get to an NBA championship game, a series, to win a title. You couldn't do it when you had pieces, arguably you had pieces in place that were good enough to get you there. So why would you go back now? Like, he's older. He's had more injuries. He didn't used to have those injuries. He's not the same player today he was back when he was playing and this team was competing to get out of the West, to get past Golden State in the West. They're not the same team. Joe says, oh boy, here come the Nuggets, then the Grizzlies. I know, right? I know. The Nuggets tonight with the Joker. He could be the MVP of the season this year, of the league. Again, the Nuggets are. All right, let me go back to this. The Nuggets are 43-19. Memphis is 36-23. Memphis is leading the Southwest Division in the West. They're 5-5 over the last 10 games. Both of those teams are problems for every team's a problem for this Rockets franchise. They're just not a great basketball team, and they struggle in so many ways, and especially defensively, right? Joe says, I'm with you, Kim. James Harden would be a mistake. I'd sign James Harden only for a year if he wanted to retire as a Rocket. Yeah, I wouldn't even sign him for a year. I'd sign him as a day at the end of the season. I would not bring him back. Maybe the conversation is just so that he can use it for leverage. That is not beyond him. We've seen that happen before. And so that could be the case. But why, if you want to win a championship, clearly that means you've given up on it, because you being on this Rockets team does not make them a championship contender. When you were with the team and they were a real contender, you couldn't get it done then. And I'm not saying it's all on James Harden, but I don't see any reason to bring him back to this young franchise. Why would you want that energy, that personality with these young players? And listen, James is one of the greatest offensive players we've seen in our time, right? He in his prime, in his heyday, some of the things that he was able to do were nothing short of remarkable. But if you're talking about building a franchise that has been struggling for years, this is not the way to do it. And remember, he didn't want to be here. And you're right, Joe. He forced his way out of the organization. It's the way he left. It's the way he left for me, too. It's the way he left. And it's just where he is in his career. It just doesn't make good sense. There's no reason, in my opinion, to bring James Harden back. Like, why would you do that? Why do you think that that's a thing to do? I'm going to see if I can pull up what Nick Casario is talking about. But I've got to do something different. It's crazy. I think I can pull it up on my Twitter account, because he's live there, so that we can check in on what he's talking about. I'm curious to know his let's see here. Let's go back to see what he's thinking in terms of. Let's see if that gets me in. Update, yes. Okay. Yeah, all these things, man. I'm not super happy with Apple right now, although I've been a Apple user for many years. I've had to deal. I've had some computer problems, and I've had to wipe my computer clean a few times, and then come back. And I will tell you one thing that did happen today, though, is that the Falcons have released quarterback Marcus Mariota. That move saved them $12 million against their salary cap. So that happened. Just kind of FYI. Not that I think, not that I believe. Where are we? I am. Where? Let's go here. Okay. I'm going to let you hear from Nick Caserio. I'm going to let you hear a little bit from him. And this is Nick. Whoops. So let me go back. All right. So this is, no, we don't want Mariota. Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that at all. Garoppolo, Carr, or any other marginal vet. Listen, and here's the thing. I'll be really curious, Tony, to see. Do the Texans go out and get, a marginal vet, right? One of these vets and build, because let's be clear, they're not going to be super good next year either, right? If you go out and get a rookie quarterback, the upside for that is you should be a lot better, but I don't know how much. And so do you go out and really build your defense? What do you do at the spot? Like, what is the philosophy for what Nick is thinking about doing? And here's something that I want to just go here. And I'm going to let you hear from Nick.
I'd say we're kind of in the team building process here. So every player, every individual situation, we'll look at it, and then ultimately we'll, do what we feel is best for the team and the organization moving forward.
Nick, how do you look at the Bears possibly trading the pick before you guys and maybe getting jumped by a team that has similar needs? I'm obviously talking quarterback to you guys. How do you look at that? Would you want to get into that trade mix and move up one?
Yeah, I think we're focused on the tech. Yeah, I'd say we're kind of in the team building.
So that's Nick. He said they're focused on the Texans, right? But I think those are some great questions. And there's something else he was asked about. He talked about Larry Tunzel. Let me see what else did Nick say that we can tap into real quick, since we weren't able to. I couldn't really sit and listen to him, but I did want to give you a little bit of. Aaron Wilson is a colleague who actually is at the combine, and the coaching staff is not there. Only D'Amico. The coaching staff is not there. The team has definitely finished out. They've got their coaching. They've compiled the coaching staff for this year. So the coaching staff is in place, but they are not at the combine. Only D'Amico Ryans is there from the staff. And here's general manager Nick Caserio. Let me bring up another thing with him talking about, which I find kind of interesting. Nope, not that. Gotta love technology, right? So here is Nick.
Yeah, I'd say we're kind of in the team building process here. So every player, every individual situation, we'll look at it, and then ultimately we'll do what we feel is best for the team and the organization moving forward.
Nick, how do you look at the Bears possibly trading the pick before you guys and maybe getting jumped by a team that has similar needs? I'm obviously talking quarterback to you guys. How do you look at that if you want to get into that trade mix and move up one?
Yeah, I think we're focused on the tech. Yeah, I'd say.
Okay, so that wasn't the one I wanted. I wanted to show you the one where he's talking about Brandon Cooks, who has a standing trade request. And what else? I guess that's it. He did talk a little bit about, we'll do this.
Nick, with Laramie.
Let's go and hear him talk about Laramie Tunsil. Let's see here. He was asked about Laramie, who of course has a request in, if you will.
Laramie, what's the thinking? He's made it very clear he loves Houston. He'd love to be back with you guys, not just for next season, but for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, Laramie's been a good player in this league for a long time. He's done a lot of good things for our team. So I think each individual player, when the time comes, it's appropriate to have any conversations. We'll go ahead and do that. A lot of respect for Laramie. We've had good conversations along the way. So, we'll see how the offseason goes. I'm not going to necessarily get into any individual conversations that we're having with players, but we'll see how it goes here in the offseason. But I mean, Laramie's expressed his sentiments about wanting to be here in Houston. We'll see if it works itself out the way
Nick,
So yeah, that's enough. I'm done. I can't do any more of Nick Caserio. But listen, when I see you, Tony, Tony says for his job security, Nick needs to win, hence marginal vet and building defense. I'd rather swing big and get a quarterback to mold. Yeah. Andy says you're wasting your time with these Caserio sound bites. Dude speaks in circles and says nothing substantive. Now, you know where I am on the whole Nick Caserio front. Y'all know I'm not a huge fan. I've been on record as saying that I am not convinced he is a guy to take this team to the next level. I am open and hope to be proven wrong. I'm just not convinced. I've seen nothing in his past when I look at what he did before he got here, what he's done since he's been here. That makes me say he should be in charge of a rebuild. Like, he should be over the personnel decisions. He should be over everything that's going to determine whether this team has what it needs, the pieces to get out of this place they're in, and to get to some place that's really competitive and substantive. So, yeah, I feel you, Tony, about the Nick Caserio sound bites. That's about as much as I would give you. I don't play a lot of him because you don't really get anything. I look forward to hearing what D'Amico says tomorrow at the combine and using some of those. And hopefully Nick is back to that same kind of energy that we used to him having, that, I'm the smartest guy in the room energy. I'm not saying he thinks that. I'm just telling you the energy that I get from him, and a level of arrogance, which is amazing based on a lack of production in terms of what he was brought in to do. That's just me. He could be a great guy. I don't know him personally. He's kind of hard to know. But I am, Tony, you know this because you follow the show, and it's always good to see you here. Not a huge fan of that. So let's talk a little bit about this. What should the Texans do with the number 2 pick? The Bears seem like they're leaning toward trading that number 1 pick. They're keeping Justin Fields. There are some who thought, they should trade Justin Fields and go get Bryce Young. But if you're not going to put anything around the quarterback, Justin Fields, Bryce Young, it doesn't matter. Then what's the difference? I mean, there's been no stability around Justin Fields. There's been nothing. They haven't given it a shot. And if you heard Michael Haywood on last week, he's going to join us again in a couple of weeks, talking about the ability of the future and the upside of a Justin Fields. It is about the system you put these quarterbacks in, is it a fit for them? It's also about what you surround them with and what kind of tools they have. So that's going to be really key. Joe says, Nick gives me O'Brien mentality, smartest man in the room. Absolutely. They are from that same little tree, right? That same little tree, and the thought, that we are from this, the Patriots tree, and how successful has that been, right? Outside of Belichick, when he had a healthy Tom Brady. Let me just be clear about that. You're not as great when you don't have a great one. So anyway, we'll see what they do, but you're not going to get much from Nick. He's not going to say a lot. I'm sorry. He's going to use a lot of words and he's going to talk a lot, but it's not going to really mean anything. Like, it's going to be difficult to ascertain what it is that he's trying to say, because I don't think he's really trying to say anything. I think he's just giving us a lot of word salad, and that's why I don't typically use a lot of Nick Caserio. But it is the combine. This draft is super important for the Texans organization, and so there you have it. Those are the Nick sound bites that I was willing to share for today. But I will be sharing some stuff later from D'Amico Ryans, or tomorrow when he meets with the media from Indianapolis at the combine, to see what he's thinking. I mean, no one's going to give you a whole lot, right? But to just get a better sense. Tony says, I would not want Bryce Young playing 3/4 of his games in the crazy weather elements of Chicago and Lambeau Field. Fields is a better fit. Yeah, I just think whatever that brief moment where there was even consideration of trading Justin Fields, I just thought it was kind of ridiculous. You've given this young man nothing to work with. You've put no one around him. He's had a lot of change. There's been no stability. So what did you expect from him? But I'll be curious to see what this Texans team does, right? If Bryce Young, if the Bears do a deal with the Colts and the Colts go out and take Bryce Young at the top pick, will the Texans go for CJ Stroud? There has been some chatter that the Texans might not want to deal with CJ Stroud. That's personal, right? Not because he can't play, but because of his agent. It's David Mulugeta, who's also Deshaun Watson's agent. I don't know if there's any truth to that. It sounds absolutely ridiculous to me, because here's the truth. David is like the new Lee Steinberg for quarterbacks. They sign him with him. He gets the deals done, right? He's getting them the deals. And so I don't know that you want to get yourself out of the top quarterbacks coming out position because you don't like the agent. You got to agree to the deals, and y'all did. So anyway, I'll be curious to see what happens. There are other quarterbacks on the board. There was an interesting piece that Peter King, who used to write for Sports Illustrated, he has a publication or a digital platform called Monday Morning Quarterback, and he talked about when teams have traded up, right, and to pick in the top 5 or top 3, moved up to grab quarterbacks, and who some of those quarterbacks have been. Remember Mitchell Trubisky? Remember that? Remember when the Bears did that deal? Robert Griffin, RG3, Robert Griffin III. Carson Wentz is another one. Most recently, Trey Lance. And there's another one that none of those players are guys that you go, oh, yeah, that made sense. They were revolutionary, right? Quarterbacks that really changed the trajectory of the teams that they played for, or had any kind of a career, lengthy career. So people want to make Patrick Mahomes a standard. Remember when Pat Mahomes came out? He was selected after Deshaun Watson. Was Deshaun 12th or 13th pick in that draft? Pat Mahomes came after that. You just got to you just can't miss. And I think if you talk about trading up, you for sure better not miss. You better know. You better know that you know that you know that you know. And I don't know how you can. It's all kind of a crap shot, right? Remember, Trevor Lawrence was the next best thing since ever. And in his rookie season, he didn't look very good. Urban Meyer was a coach. They had all sorts of dysfunction and chaos in Jacksonville. Some pieces were missing. And look at how differently he looked in year 2. The key is, what is the system? Who do you have around these young quarterbacks? And what else do you have in terms of team building to be able to be competitive at this level? And the Texans have a lot of needs. I'm not a fan of them trading up, although I think Bryce Young would be amazing. I just think that you've got all this draft capital. You've got a lot of needs. I don't know that you want to go and get rid of it now. I don't know. We'll see. I just can't wait to see what comes out of the combine. You know, every year there's some player that separates himself. There's another player that seems to drop. And so these next, 56, 58 days will be really key. They'll have pro days at schools. Bryce Young is at the combine. He is not going to throw. He's going to throw at his pro day. That's what a lot of the top picks usually do now. They don't necessarily perform, if you will, at the combine. They save it for their pro days. But we'll see what happens. And we'll see how they're rated. It's a fun time. Listen, this is one of my favorite times of the year. We're talking about March Madness as we head toward March Madness actually gets underway this weekend, with teams tournaments, the tournaments for teams. I'm going back to some NCAA stuff. And where is... Let's go with the ranking. Let's do the AP Top 25. Okay, here we go. So U of H is back in the number 1 spot. They're 15-1 in conference, 27-2 overall. The top 4 teams are University of Houston, Alabama, Kansas, and UCLA. Now that's today, right? Anything could happen over the next few weeks. And in terms of who's got the best shot of, I wanted to do the top 25, getting to the Final Four. Final Four is going to be in Houston. Can the Cougars continue to stay strong? Can they get back to the Final Four this year? Will this be the year? Can they win it? Are they good enough to win it? I'm not really sure, but we will find out. Here is Tony says, have you weighed in on the Brandon Miller from Bama situation? So I have not. And so Brandon Miller, for those of you who are not familiar, is a basketball player with the Crimson Tide. And here's the issue. I'm just looking at, I thought I saw something come across. I'd hate to be on the show and then miss like some major news. He is a highly rated player, right? Because if he wasn't, then we would not be even talking about him. And so there was a situation in Alabama where one of his teammates, who has since been dismissed from the team, was involved or is accused of a fatal shooting, right? Has been charged. And Brandon is drawn into it because he supposedly provided the gun to the player. And that became the issue, right? That why is he still on the team? Why hasn't he been disciplined? Why hasn't something happened? And so people have had different positions and different takes on it, right? He's been doing this routine, right? He's been doing what he does. Alabama has not suspended him. He was introduced on this past Saturday when they played Arkansas. He was patted down by a teammate, and something that's been a part of pregame all season. But that's not funny, right? It's not a cute thing at all. And I think Shannon Sharp weighed in on that earlier today. And he was offended by that. Like, you can't make light of this thing that's happening because it's really a big deal. And so, you know, the SEC has been criticized. You know, there's some who say they can't have it both ways when it comes to Brandon Miller. You just can't. You know, he's what do I think? I think it's a super sad situation. He's not been charged with the crime, right? Police consider him a witness, not a subject in the investigation. But you know, his attorney said that he never touched the gun. He wasn't involved in its exchange to Davis in any way, and that how could he have known that some illegal activity involving the gun would happen? So that's what they're saying. So that Miller should not be, he's not responsible, and that, you know, his teammate, Darius Miles, who texted Miller asking him to bring a handgun, and this is back in January, and soon after that, Darius Miles, his friend, Michael Davis, allegedly used that gun to kill the 23-year-old Jonah Harris. So it's a whole big mess. But Alabama, he's a star, and they've not set him down, and they're saying that he's not responsible. And if that's the case, but what you don't do is make a joke about being patted down, I think it's too much happening. That was a serious situation. It's a murder. I mean, somebody was shot and killed, a young woman, and you took a gun and dropped it off. So you didn't shoot anyone, but so I sound like Nick Casario a little bit, Tony. So I guess I'm a little torn about it. I don't think it's been handled well. I guess my concern is I feel like Brandon Miller doesn't realize the severity of it, and it's not okay. But that's a problem, that you're continuing to play, which maybe it says that maybe he shouldn't be. Because if you don't realize how serious this is, it's sad all the way around. And I don't know how you could think that that's, I don't want to say cute, but acceptable. Joe says it's sad on all fronts, but he hasn't been charged with anything. It was not a good look for Bama or SEC to play him right after the new developments, and the pat down pregame was very insensitive. Exactly. Joe summed it up. It's all of that. He's not been charged with anything. He's not even considered a suspect. He's a witness, but it's not a good look. And it just showed a level of insensitivity about the loss of life of a young woman. That's just not acceptable. It's just not okay. And so that alone may say, you know what, we come over here. I've got a spot for you to take a break for a minute, because this is a really big deal. And while you didn't shoot anyone, you've not been charged with anything, you haven't. You're involved in something that's really ugly. There's an involvement, right, on some level. And right. So anyway, we'll see what happens, you know, but here's the deal. And we talk about this all the time. When you're really good, the rules are different for stars, for superstars, right? Because if he was just a guy at the end of the bench, they probably would have gotten rid of him. Why even have to worry about how it looks and how it comes across? But that's not the case. What are his numbers this year? So let me see. So yeah, the coaches and stuff at Alabama have moved on as if there's nothing to see here, as if the school's best player, because that's what he is, did nothing wrong, you know, in transporting the gun to a friend who'd been partying until the late hours of the night. And the coach has started Miller every game since the January 15th shooting and said that Miller is not in any trouble. All right. I'm just trying to give you find out his numbers, because that's really it's really kind of his issue. Let's look at his stats, because he's Alabama's best player. He's averaging right at 20 points a game and 8 rebounds. He's shooting 47% from the field. He's 6'9", weighs 200 pounds. He's a forward, and that's why he's playing. Let's be clear. If he were not the best player on the team, we wouldn't even be having this conversation, but we are. So listen, we are out of time for today. That's going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you'll get notifications about the show. Really want to build the YouTube audience. I'm starting to post some shorts and some other things. Hey, Tony, if you missed last week's show, go back and check it out. I had Coach Mike Haywood on. I don't know if you were here, Tony, last week, but he did talk about Eric Bieniemy a little bit, and so I think that was interesting. People had questions about why would he go to the Commanders, and Michael, who actually knows him, weighed in on that. Thank you, Joe McGinty. I appreciate you. Remember, guys, a couple of things. This weekend in Houston is the AIDS Walk. It's March the 5th at Sam Houston Park downtown. April the 15th. At the top of the comments, you can see where you can register and get information about the African American Male Wellness Walk. It's in Houston, April the 15th. Go to that link, get the information, sign up, get your team, come out, support, get tested, get screened. There's all kinds of goodness going to be happening, but we need to make sure that we're making that our African American men are getting screened and tested, and getting the medical, having access to medical care, mental health care, financial wellness, all that good stuff. That's what we want to do with the African American Male Wellness Agency and the upcoming walk. So I'm thanking you in advance for going and clicking on the link at the top of the comments. I started both on Facebook and on YouTube for more information, and I will continue to share that on my other platforms as well. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for me today. Remember our sponsors who support us, the World Youth Foundation, in collaboration with the African American Male Wellness Association. That's all the partnership where we're talking about the walk. And of course, don't forget about Jinka, ilovejinka.com, and Kimmy Treats at kimmytreats.com. Make it a great, great week. I will see you next Tuesday on Chalk Talk and across all my platforms. Until then, remember, if you are not registered to vote, get registered. Do something kind for yourself and do something kind for somebody else. Peace.